Gilmore Girls gets therapized. Do you have a parent or a loved one who wants to be part of your life, but you just can't bring yourself to trust them? Mended Light. Okay, we are looking at season 2 of Gilmore Girls. This is actually towards the beginning of the season. Lorelai and Max Medina, the hunky professor, are engaged. And Lorelai has told everyone in her life except for her parents, specifically her mother. And let's see how it goes.
Oh, wait.
Ooh.
When are you going to tell them?
Soon.
When soon?
When the big hand hits the S and the little hand hits the un.
You're getting married in 3 months.
Ring the bell.
I think you should tell them now.
Ring the bell.
The longer you wait, the harder it's gonna be.
For the love of God, will you please ring the bell?
You can tell them before dinner.
I will tell them when I'm ready to tell them. You have to accept that because I'm the mother and you're the daughter, and in some cultures, that means you have to do what I say.
If you don't tell them in 2 weeks, I will.
Though apparently not in this one.
Rory is touching on something that is absolutely true. The things that we avoid, we give them power. They grow bigger in our minds, and they grow more and more scary if we don't confront them. Also, small things tend to become big things over time if they're not dealt with. And Lorelai is letting her fear get in the way. So Lorelai's going into this dinner, and what she doesn't know is that her mom is upset. Why? Flashback.
For 5 minutes from now. Hello?
Hi, Mrs. Gilmore? It's Suki St. James, Lorelai's friend.
I don't know if you remember me.
Oh, yes, you're the chef at the inn.
That's right. Listen, I'm sorry to call so late,
But I need to ask you a question.
I'm planning a surprise wedding shower for Lorelai and Max. It's going to be more like a big party, actually. But I've cleared the date with everybody around here, so we're all set to go. But I wanted to make sure
That you guys were going to be around before I finalized everything. It's going to be Saturday, the 21st.
I don't know. I'd have to check.
Okay. Oh, okay, you check, and then you call me at the end. Okay?
Yes, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, so Suki doesn't know that Emily doesn't know, because Lorelai never told Suki, don't tell my mom. It didn't even cross her mind. And Suki assumes that, of course, Lorelai would tell her mother that she's engaged. So Emily just found out, not in the way Lorelai hoped. And that's the thing about secrets and lies, is if you don't get in front of it, if you don't tell the truth, then it's going to come out at a time or a place or in a way that you didn't intend on, and now you're going to have to deal with the fallout. Far better to tell the truth, to find your courage, and like a Band-Aid, just rip it off.
You should just do it like a Band-Aid. One motion, right off!
So this is going to understandably create some drama between mother and daughter, because at dinner, Emily is cold and detached. Lorelai doesn't know why and decides just to tell her mom that she's engaged, not knowing that her mom already knows.
You know, Mom, I'm really loving the salad dressing.
I'm glad.
Lemony.
Yes.
Nothing like a nice salad of lemony goodness.
Lorelai, be direct. Come on.
Mom,
Hmm?
I have something to tell you.
Yes?
Well, it's like this. Could you put down your fork for a second? Thank you. Okay, you know Max.
No, I don't.
Okay, I know you don't know him, but you know of him, right?
I've heard rumblings.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
man.
Max and I have been serious for quite a while now, and he asked me to marry him, and I said yes, I'm getting married.
Well, I think that's very nice. I certainly hope we'll be in town for it, but if not, I promise we'll send a nice gift. Now, excuse me, I'm going to check on the roast.
Oh. Okay, some dynamics. So on our membership site, we talk about in our course, Closeness Through Conflict, 3 types of conflict resolution styles: affirmers, avoiders, and attackers. And Emily and Lorelai are often avoiders. They don't want to face things head on because they know when they do, it's going to turn into a big blowout fight, because that's what happens over and over and over and over. When they face things head on, it gets ugly and they both go into attacker mode, and they both rather not. So they go passive aggressive. And Emily doesn't say and doesn't get vulnerable and say, Lorelai, it hurts me that you didn't tell me about your engagement. Lorelai doesn't get vulnerable and say, Mom, I want to tell you about something exciting in my life, but I'm a little worried about how it's going to go. If you're familiar with attachment theory, Lorelai has an insecure, avoidant attachment with her mother. She's avoidant because she has such a history of being hurt that she'd rather not face things head on. So she just doesn't engage. And she's only at these dinners because she has to be, but now she's giving it a try. And Emily, for her part, is stonewalling. She's engaging at the most minimal level with her daughter and letting out her frustration through passive-aggressive jabs instead of being direct. And Lorelai has had it. So she brings Max to meet her mom, to tell her mom off. And Max could have waited in the car, but instead, this is his first time meeting Lorelai's mother. And yeesh.
What on earth?
Hi, Mom. Do you have a sec to chat? Super.
Lorelai, what is this?
I just wanted to see how you were. That's all.
I'm fine.
You are? Oh, good, good. I'm glad that you're fine. I, however, am not fine.
Your father and I were just about to go to bed. We can do this in the morning.
Actually, Mom, no. We can't do this in the morning. We really need to do this right now.
Are you drunk?
No, I'm not drunk. I'm confused.
About what?
About you.
And what about me confuses you, Lorelai?
Well, so many things. I mean, for example, why can't you keep a maid in this house? I mean, there must have been 1,000 women who've gone through here in the 32 years that I've been alive, and not one of them could stick it out.
And this is what we need to discuss right now?
These are women from countries that have dictatorships and civil wars and death squads and all of that. They survived. But 5 minutes working for Emily Gilmore, and people are begging for Castro.
Lorelai, in her pain, is engaging in criticism. Gottman's call them the four horsemen of the apocalypse in a relationship: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. A little bit of contempt in there as well. Contempt is an attitude of superiority. She is now not addressing the problem. She is attacking her mother's character because she feels justified. Her argument now is, my mom is terrible and she doesn't see she's terrible, so I'm going to help her to see she's terrible. And here's the evidence that you're terrible, Mom, that none of your staff want to stay on with you. None of them want to keep working with you. And she's got a valid point, but this is not an entry into a productive conversation. She is sure, and I mean 100% sure, knowing Emily, to trigger defensiveness and pushback and contempt and criticism in return.
All right, I'm going to bed now.
And why is it that when your only daughter tells you that she is getting married, you can't muster up even a little enthusiasm, even a little fake enthusiasm? Why don't you pretend that you care? I mean, this is the biggest thing to happen to me possibly for the rest of my life. And you dismissed it. Like I said, hey, I'm thinking of getting a Honda. What do you think?
You're obviously hysterical.
Why don't you care? Why have you never cared?
Emily, in her defensiveness, is launching a counterattack. And granted, it's really hard to be present for another person, to put your agenda on the shelf and really hear them and see their pain and care about where they're coming from when they're coming at you with this much anger and vitriol. The natural human response is to get defensive. And I'm not saying we can't override that intentionally with practice and with focus and with determination, that when someone comes at me angry, I'm going to see past my hurt feelings to the hurt they're carrying and be present for them and be accountable and ask what I can do to make it right. We can do that, but it's not what comes naturally. What comes naturally is, you're obviously hysterical. And what breaks my heart is when Lorelai says, why don't you care? And you can see that wounds Emily because she cares deeply. All of her petty behavior right now come from a place of caring deeply.
Why don't you care? Why have you never cared? No matter what has happened to me my entire life, you've never been happy for me, and that hurts. Mom, it really hurts.
I'm not discussing this with you.
Do you know how it
Avoidance.
felt for me to tell you that I was getting married and to have you just brush it off like that? Do you know?
No, I don't know. Possibly very similar to finding out from a complete stranger that my only daughter was getting married and had told every other person in the world before she bothered to tell her own mother. Possibly it felt something like that. Now, if you will excuse me, it is late and I'm going to bed.
Here's the thing about fights. The things that we're avoiding saying because we don't want it to get ugly, it's like, well, now that it's ugly, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. But neither party here feels loved. Neither person in this situation really feels like I'm cared for, I'm wanted. They feel like the other person sees me as a failure and sees me as a loser and sees me as a jerk. Now, something good does come out of fights sometimes, which is at least the truth gets out there. and we can consider where the other person's coming from. And the fact is, we can have better conflict resolution. We can have healthier communications. Sometimes we're still going to have fights. And the Gottmans John and Julie Gottman talk about the importance of repair, the ability to repair. And repairing looks like considering the other person's perspective. It looks like identifying what vulnerable emotion you're feeling underneath your anger and expressing that. And it involves taking accountability for your actions. And we're going to see a beautiful, not perfect, but still beautiful example of Lorelai doing this and then Emily following suit.
Hey. Oh, thanks. Hey, Mom. I was in the neighborhood, because there's that wedding dress place on Willow. Elizabeth Taylor bought one of her dresses there. Anyhow, I was trying to make a decision about a veil. And I thought maybe you might have some opinion about which one would look best on me, because, well, you know me. So, I thought I'd stop by and ask you which one you thought would be good on me. So, which one?
You're quite capable of choosing that yourself, Lorelai.
So something I want you all to understand is that when I react to these shows, I am both a therapist and a human being. Because as a therapist, I can say, okay, Lorelai isn't at a place in her journey yet, just to be candid and vulnerable. And it takes courage to do that, right? And straightforward and accountable. And I can say that, and I can see that with compassion, and I can say, I've been there myself, I totally relate. As a person watching a TV show, I get annoyed. At least the writing's consistent, but every time that there is a tough conversation that needs to happen, Lorelai dances around it with awkward jokes, and they always fall flat, and the people in her life are never like, oh, this is a good way to start this, Lorelai, you're really breaking the ice. Far better just to be direct. And she gets there. Far better just to be direct. Ditto for Emily. Come on, Emily, you're hurting. You want to make up with your daughter just as much as she wants to make up with you. Why are you making Lorelai take the lead on apologies almost every time?
I'm sorry.
All right, you're sorry.
Come on, Emily.
I don't know how to tell you things, Mom. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but we don't communicate very well.
Co-responsibility, not blaming her mom, that's good.
Something good happens to me, I'm just afraid you're gonna make me feel bad about it. And when something bad happens to me, I'm always afraid you'll say, I told you so. I'm not sure if that's always fair.
Okay, I love this. Lorelai is expressing the fear, and she's describing the behavior, right? She's not telling her mom, you're a terrible person. She's saying, this is the behavior. And then when she says, I'm not sure if that's fair, the way I read it is she's saying, I'm not sure if it's fair that I see you that way, or that I see our interactions that way, and maybe I'm missing the times when you don't do that. Like, I'm not really paying attention to those times, and I'm just focusing on the times I'm hurt. Lorelai is being vulnerable, she's being real, she's being direct. She started with an apology. It may feel like she is making an excuse for how she treated her mom. She's not, but she could explicitly say that. That doesn't excuse not telling you, because I want to build a different dynamic with you, right, is what she could say. I want to be able to tell you things, and I know it hurt you that I didn't tell you. I want to be able to do so. Can we talk about what behaviors we can both change so that we can have a new dynamic? Because I don't want to hurt you anymore, and I'm assuming you don't want to hurt me.
And I'm sure I share part of the blame for this circle we get into, but...
Yes!
You think your words don't have any effect on me. But they do.
Slight tweak. Don't tell somebody what they think. You actually don't know what they think unless they've told you. And I can't remember, I don't think Emily has said to Lorelai that her words don't have any effect on her. But maybe I'm wrong.
I just didn't want to feel bad about this. So I waited. And I really didn't mean to hurt you. Okay, well, I will let you get back to that letter there.
Now, it's really tempting to make Emily the bad guy. It's really tempting to be like, Lorelai just laid herself bare and she took accountability. You know, she says, I'm sure I share part of the blame for this cycle we get into. Lorelai, this is actually one of the healthiest moments from Lorelai that I've seen so far when it comes to conflict resolution, because she frequently comes off as petty and immature, and here she doesn't. Here she takes a really strong step into accountability, and I'm proud of her. Let's not be too quick to judge Emily. I'm not saying that she's right. I'm not saying the way she's acting towards her daughter is okay. I'm saying this is a woman who has never learned how to do this, and now her daughter, who she didn't teach, is showing her this is how. And in my experience, people generally don't just like switch it on, right? But Emily, what Lorelai has just modeled, this is landed, right? She's processing this. And so while she's not ready to meet Lorelai on the same level of accountability and vulnerability yet, she does do this.
Your head is much too big for a veil.
Okay, hang on, I know. It's like an insult, right? But if you watch the acting by Kelly Bishop, who plays Emily, she plays it so marvelously. She says, your head is much too big for a veil. And then she hears the words come out of her mouth, and you can see her flinch when she realizes, I've just been harsh with my daughter again.
Your head is much too big for a veil.
This is what I sound like. This is what I do. Because her intention isn't actually to be harsh with her daughter. Her intention is to give her daughter a helpful suggestion to extend an olive branch back. And she realizes as it comes out of her mouth, like, oh, I screwed that up immediately. The moment I started talking, it's a wonderful piece of acting.
You might consider a tiara.
A tiara?
That's what I wore.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'll think about that.
Okay, this is beautiful to me. Kelly Bishop, who plays Emily, the role requires her to just have a stern look on her face all the time, right? The resting bee face that you've heard about, she's got that look on her face all the time. And I remember I was watching this with Alicia, we were hanging out watching it together, and when Emily looks at Lorelai and recommends the tiara, and then she says, that's what I wore, there is hope in her eyes. There's this I'm not in a position of power anymore. I've given up, I'm letting my guard down to just be real and try and to express the longing, even though I'm not expressing it directly. It's there, it's subtext. And I turned to Alicia and I said, I just realized that Kelly Bishop is a beautiful woman. And she says, I thought the same thing. And I'm like, you don't see it when she's looking stern and mean all the time. But when she looks at her daughter right here, she's beautiful. It's so lovely. Now here's something that's been on my mind a lot. There are healthy ways to resolve conflict. There are healthy ways to communicate. Absolutely. One of the unhealthiest things we can do is to be harsh and judgmental. And yet, on a societal level, I see it everywhere. And we're harsh and judgmental towards the people in our lives, instead of seeing this is where they're at. On our membership site, we just recorded a podcast about this book called Secure Love by Julie Menano. Highly recommend it. And she talks about seeing interactions through the lens of attachment. In other words, if I was someone who's attacking or avoiding or showing up in a way that's unhealthy, why does that behavior make sense to them if they are insecurely attached? Right? If they don't know how to connect, and they don't have the vocabulary or the skills, so why are they showing this behavior? Emily and Lorelai can be incredibly petty and cruel and passive aggressive. Why? Lorelai identifies it. We don't know how to communicate. But they both have this longing for connection with each other, and they're both hurt deeply by the other person when they don't have that connection. We need to extend grace to each other. And this is another beautiful thing that Lorelai does here. I watched another reaction video to this scene where the commentator was saying, what? Why is Lorelai apologizing? Emily should apologize. And I'm gonna pull rank here I'm going to pull rank here as a relationship expert. Yes, should. Right? They should both be apologizing. Emily's not ready yet. She's not mature enough in conflict resolution, communication, vulnerability, accountability yet to do so. But she takes a step, she drops the stern demeanor, and she offers something helpful to her daughter. And what I love about Lorelai here is that she accepts it. She extends her mother grace. I think she says inwardly, long term, if this is where like mom lands and stays, that's going to be a problem for me. But I recognize mom just took a step today, and that's good enough for me. What do you think about Lorelai and Emily in these scenes? What do you think about their motivations and about their inability to communicate, as well as how they reconcile? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Since I'm sure you're enjoying this, I've got an entire playlist of Gilmore Girls videos for you to check out. Until next time, folks, keep shining. We need your light.